Hey everyone, welcome back to Notes to Self. My name is Melanie.
And I'm Corey.
If you don't know who we are, we were both born and raised in the AUB, a polygamous cult here in Utah, or otherwise known as the Apostolic United Brethren. I was raised with 4 moms and 34 brothers and sisters.
My dad had 9 wives, 39 children living on the same compound up in Pinestone, Montana. So, a united order.
Yep. So here we are. We are going to go over the tell-all of Sister Wives on
Season 19.
Season 19,
Tell-all
Part
2.
2. But before we do that, just wanted to say, remind everybody to start doing their healing work, your inner work. If you haven't done that, now's a great time to get started on that. Any type of modality that you have available to you, find one that works and start doing some of that inner work because you deserve to be loved deeper and your families deserve to be loved deeper. So get that started if you can.
Yep.
One of the things, we have been a little bit slow this week. We had mentioned on our live that we did that we're kind of in grandparents mode, so one of the things I wanted to kind of go over is some of the dynamics of polygamy. So I have a little brother that is the same age as my oldest son. So hopefully that makes sense. They're 3 months apart. My son is 3 months younger. And so they grew up almost as brothers. And so we have his kids for the last, we've had them for seven days total. We've had them for 6 days now. And they're the cutest little bugs, but they are absolutely insistent on calling Corey Grandpa or Papa Corey. They call me Aunt Mel, which is fine because that would feel weird if they called me Grandma. But these are some of the different dynamics that you run into in polygamy, is the fact that here we kind of made them adoptive grandchildren. And so we definitely treat them as if they are our grandchildren. So biologically, we have 2 grandchildren, but then we also have these other 2 grandchildren that we have basically been a huge part of their lives and taken them since the oldest is 6. We've had them pretty consistently since the oldest was born. The oldest is one of the reasons why we healed our marriage and wanted to make things work. He was born right after we decided to work things out. And then we were like, hey, this grandparent thing together could be pretty cool. Let's figure out if we can heal our relationship so that we can be grandparents together. So yeah, so it's been a long week. This is why our video isn't coming out until now, because it has been a really long week for us. We forgot how it was to have small children 24/7, the 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. So yeah, it's been a long 6 days for us. We're exhausted. Poor Corey though. I shouldn't say poor Corey because I'm the one that does all the hard stuff. And then Corey gets all the grandpa, we love you. And then everything I'll just say to the little guy, I'll be like, hey, do you want, no. But Corey stands up off the couch and he's, where you going, Grandpa? Where you going? And so it's been fun, but we're in exhaustion mode. Sunday, we'll have them until tomorrow night at we'll have them for one more day until midnight. And then, we're going to have some
downtime
whiskey this weekend. Yep. So we're so tired. But we had committed to doing this while their parents went out of the country for 7 days. We'd committed to doing this 9 months ago. And so, we're tired.
Yeah. It's been fun, but it's going to be fun. I like the grandparent mode because we could usually get to take them home, sugar them up and take them home. But we're sugaring them up and then sleeping with them. So
we're exhausted. So that is some of the
kudos to their parents. Yeah. Their parents are amazing.
And their parents have FaceTimed them every day that they've been out of the country. And it's been really fun, but we're at exhaustion mode right now. But that is some of the dynamics of polygamy, is that we are now, my brother, we're from the same mom, same dad. I was just 17 when he was born. And 17 when I had my first child, because I got married a week after I turned 17. And I don't know that the youngest one has ever even met my dad. I don't think that he has. If you don't know who my dad is, he's the current prophet of the AUB. And I don't think the youngest one has ever even met him. I think the older one has met him once or twice. And so really Corey is the only grandpa that they've ever had.
And that's a weird dynamic. That is a dynamic that goes on in big polygamous families. My oldest brother is 16 years older than me. He was 16 when I was born. My littlest brother and the youngest of the family, I was 21 when he was born. So 37 years span of producing children.
Yeah. So just a little back history of like how these polygamous families can get this crazy. I think with my dad's oldest biological child was 28 when the youngest biological child was born. So there's a 28-year span there.
And how many kids in 28 years?
Oh, I don't know.
How many biological?
Well, there's 34 of us, but some of those weren't biological. So I think 6 of those weren't biological. So 20, what is that? 26 of them were biological. So yeah we're going to have to do plig math here really quick.
30. Ours was 26 biological. So
oh, really?
30.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's crazy.
37 years, 26 biological children.
So. Yeah. So there gets to be a lot of different, everyone we know calls it polygonometry because it can be so confusing, especially when they're like, grandpa. And sometimes they'll slip and call me grandma because our grandkids call me grandma and they're the same age. So anyways, but then I just remind them, it's okay, it's Aunt Mel. And not that I mind that they call me grandma, it just feels a little bit different. Where with Corey, it's like, they don't care. They will not call him Uncle Corey. They will always call and they told their dad, no, we'll be calling him grandpa. So anyways, back to the tell-all. So we've had to watch this tell-all a few times. We usually watch it a few times to get the different facial expressions of everybody. But B, we had to do it because we just have to sneak it in when we can with the 2 little guys.
Yeah, between Bluey. So we watched Bluey and then some sister wives were there sleeping and then back to Bluey. So
yeah. So this tell-all starts, I think it's kind of interesting. One of the dynamics about this tell-all that I thought was kind of funny, we've been saying for a while that we feel like Robin and Cody are on a redemption tour. One of the things that Cody, I've noticed that he keeps saying in these tell-alls is the fact that it's like, he keeps saying, I tried to make it work for my children and the family. Where in the past, I feel like he
may have, yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't really mentioned the children a lot. And now all of a sudden he's mentioning the children in almost every single one of his answers. Don't you think?
Yeah, but he still refers to it's Janelle's children, Christine's children, you know what I mean?
But that's why I was so surprised when he was like,
and then our children. Our children is usually probably discussing the 2 of Robin's kids. So
yeah,
I don't know. He needs to put some clarification on what our children are.
Well, he's not so sure anymore.
Yeah, because I don't think the kids would probably say, "Oh, that's our 4th mother."
Right.
So
well, and what's interesting too is I feel like right out of the gate he clears it up. I tried to work this out because of my children and the family, not because of my ego or my failure as a polygamist. And so we thought that was I thought that was funny because he's obviously watching the internet. He's seeing what people are saying. He saw what Janelle had been saying and some of the women had been saying, that it's all about his ego. He's the one who said, it's all about ego, baby. No one else said that but him. And so now that the family's falling apart, that's where it feels like he needs to clarify.
He's got his cue cards from Robin. So.
Right. Well, and one of the things too that we kind of noticed is he's very careful about the words that he does until he gets riled up. Mm-hmm. Careful about the words that he's using. Now, a lot of you guys in our comments made the noticing that Christine had filed for child support a couple of weeks before the tell-alls were filmed. So that could be some of it, because I feel like him and Robin are very careful about what they're saying in their answers.
Try to be.
Right. They're trying to be very careful. And so, so I think that I'm just trying to pay attention to exactly how they're saying things and what they're saying. And I feel like that's part of it, is he's just trying to get ready for his court case with Christine. Again, could be wrong. Just what we're noticing. One of the things I like is right out of the gate too in the episode, Janelle says he's a failure at this lifestyle, because when you are called to this lifestyle, and that's what everyone, we were always told our entire lives. Some of us were so righteous, we were born into this lifestyle, but other people came down to the planet in other different families, and then they were called to the lifestyle because they were so righteous that they were called to live this lifestyle. If you were one of the select few out of the billions of people on this planet that were called to live this lifestyle, then you were supposed to live a higher calling. It's called a higher calling or a higher way of life. And you were expected to raise up to that. So here Cody makes mention on the previous episode that he wanted to raise all of his relationships up to what he had with Robin.
The divine marriage. He's supposed to be living a divine life and have a divine marriage. That's the words he's using. That's what we were taught. So, sorry.
No, I'm lying. So I want you to speak up more. So yeah, I think that, and that's why Janelle's saying he failed, because if he was called to live this lifestyle, he would have become a better person to save these marriages, but he just didn't want to. And so then she says in COVID, he just got tired and just was like, you guys are going to put me in an early grave. I just don't want to do this anymore. And so then he makes that comment to her about the lifestyle, and he just chooses out at that point. And so he was never actually one of the higher called people to live this lifestyle, because he didn't become a better person in order to save these marriages.
Well, he feels 10 years younger around Robin. And so by hanging around with the original wives, it's going to put him in that earlier grave. He's got 10 more years of life hooked on him if he just hangs out with Robin more. So she's going to keep him vibrant and young and curly. So
and curly. Well, and so one of the things what Janelle just says, you are trying to become more than you already are. And we were always taught that. And when somebody left the polygamous group, it was like, that's because they couldn't rise to the calling that they were given. They couldn't rise and become more than they are. So a lot of the verbiage that Janelle's using, we've heard our entire lives of be more than you are now. And so, like I was saying in the previous episode, he gives us all the reasons why he was not one of the divinely called people to live this way, because he's failing at all of it. And so then he goes into like this tantrum. I don't want to talk about this. You know, it seemed
shut you down.
Yeah, it seemed like he was throwing a tantrum a good portion of the interview. I was surprised to see Suki kind of come at him with some harder questions and then push the questions. Like,
yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, because I feel like she's asked him questions in the past, but then she's like, she'll back up and won't force him to answer it. But this time she's like, okay.
Yeah. And there's a reason. He is the priesthood leader of his family. He is the head of his family. Really, there's only one other person on this earth that can call him to account, and that would be his priesthood leader, which would be the prophet, seer, and revelator. And
of the polygamous
church, her dad. And he has had a phone call and been chastened or been told that he was doing it wrong. And because he's been doing it wrong, Mary's been taken away. You know what I mean? He's had some dispute. He had to defend himself. If the prophet knew everything, that he wouldn't have given her the release, but I'm okay with that release. But the other part of this is he is above being reprimanded by smaller people than him. That's
being held to
account by wives that he feels like he has fulfilled his part of the endowment. He has kept his covenants with them. They are the ones that have chose out of the covenant with him. They've chosen to quit, because if they hadn't been on TV, if they were stuck in this lifestyle, they would still be with him trying to uphold their covenant. And so he is not going, this is rampant through the cult that we grew up with, that the priesthood leader will not be held responsible, or you can't, it's not, they can only be held responsible by those above them. Those below them, they can't be judged by them. And so it's almost a insult that he is being asked questions. That's done. That's over with. I have been reprimanded by the priesthood leader. It's over. It's done with. You guys cannot hold me to account. You guys are Gentiles. You are wives that have left. You are children. You guys don't get to hold me to account. I've already been held to account by this guy. It's done. It's over with. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And he's throwing a priesthood leader tantrum.
That's awesome.
Saying, no, you guys don't get to talk to me, and you don't get to ask those questions anymore. I'm not going to answer them. I'm going to be I'm going to be a priesthood leader and just not answer those questions because I don't have to be held accountable by you guys. Sorry about the word. We might have to pause.
Shocked me a little.
Yeah, sorry.
But no, it's very true. And we've literally heard these men say these exact words. You cannot hold me accountable. I have already gone through the accountability stage with the priesthood leaders of the church. And so you don't get to question it. Even to victims of sexual molestation, of, abandonment, all sorts of crimes against women and children that are done in this religion. These men will come back and say, you don't get to hold me accountable for that because I have already been held to account by the leaders of the church. And so I don't need to be held to account by you. And so when somebody like Suki sits and asks him questions that she's already beneath him, A, she's a woman, B, she's a Gentile, and he's already been held to account by the priesthood authority. So he doesn't need to even, although he doesn't realize that this is a paycheck for him. So he's having to do this for a paycheck. And so I feel like that's where you're seeing a lot of the superiority coming from him and also from Robin both, is because they don't want to be held account. And these men will not be held accountable by anyone who is of lesser status. Yeah. And so, but I loved what Christine said, where she was like, I'm sorry, but if one man loses 3 wives, that's a problem with the man. And she's absolutely right.
He's supposed to be the leader of that family. So,
right.
And when the family dissolves,
it's his fault.
It's his fault.
And so he wants to blame each one of the wives. Well, this is why it didn't work with Mary. This is why it didn't work with Janelle. This is why it didn't work with Christine. And yet he is the common denominator. And then you want to push back on him. And he's like, you don't get to question me. Do you know who I have authority here? You do not have authority. And this episode really lit me up a lot. I had to pause because I have an ex-husband who is exactly like this. And I have said this before, Cody Brown is not the exception to the rule. This is how majority of these men behave in this religion, because they only have to be accountable to who's, their priesthood head who goes straight to God. That's it. They don't need to be held accountable to these lower class citizens.
Yeah. And they will begrudgingly, they will begrudgingly be held accountable to the laws of the land, but they're not going to like it. So
and they still don't even do that because there is a lot of men. My ex-husband spent a lot of time in jail for
disobeying.
For contempt of court because he was ordered to do something that he said, you have no authority over me. And then when the judge found him in contempt of court and there was a warrant issued for his arrest, he spent a lot of time in jail because the courts were less than what he was. So there is a lot. They will literally take this all the way to where they're sitting in a jail cell. Look at Warren Jeffs, because he doesn't need to account to men here on earth. So with all that being said, that watching his behavior moving forward, that's why he's behaving this way in our opinion, in my experience. Now he could be having something totally different, because I feel like he's trying to clean up some of the online commentary and gossip that's going on about him and Robin. So he might change his story or whatever, but this has been my experience with these men. One of the things too, Robin, right out of the gate, she feels so lost and spacey, and she's got her hand on her like this all the time. So of course we looked up the body language on that one, and it's like she's bored. She's preoccupied. She's so bored she's trying to hold her head up and answer the questions.
Yeah.
She feels, when I'm watching her, she feels almost like she's maybe not. I would certainly not accuse her of being on any sort of mind-altering substance, but she doesn't seem like she's all the way there. She's just like, I'm here for the paycheck. Can we get on with this? And she's not answering anything. She's not contributing anything. And so it feels really odd to even have her on there because she's not contributing.
Well,
until
they're talking about coming up to the party and meeting David, and
then she's going to tell Christine exactly how divorce
goes. And I believe that she is a divorce pro, so she truly knows how to go through the divorce. And yes, that's how her and Cody are going to handle it. That they get to go up there and see the kids. That's awesome. Let's get that to work out and stuff. But I wonder if she allowed that with her ex-husband, or did they get lawyers involved and push him out as far and as quickly as they can and just get him to back off. And of course the ladies, and they are the ladies, are not going to do that to Cody. They're not going to. They want a relationship. That's what they want, is a relationship with him and his kids. He used to have a good relationship with them. They're going to do everything that they can to create that good relationship with him. When, not if, Robin and Cody gets divorced, I guarantee it's not going to be a clean divorce at all. It's going to be very similar to her first divorce, and she's already laying the little eggshells or the little planted seeds about he's got a temper, and he probably does. And so, but she will make sure that divorce is very quick, final.
She knows how to do it.
She knows how to do it. She this is the one time that I'm like, yeah, Christine, listen to her. She knows how to get through this part. Polygamy, no, you didn't have to listen to her that much. You guys were pros there, but divorce, she's a pro there. So get ready. So
okay, then Janelle talks about, she thinks that Cody's running interference for Robin. He's trying to cover for Robin. I think so too. I have agreed with this from the very beginning. I think he's trying to, especially on last week's episode when they're going to the tell-all and he looks at Robin and he says, how can I protect you from this? And she says, you can't, God will protect me. There you go with the self-righteousness again. And you go with the, she doesn't need to answer to Suki because she answers to God. And so she's going to say the bare minimum. And also, I think they're trying to not give the internet or people much to gossip about either. But one of the things that Janelle says, when Suki asked her that, why do you think that? She says, well, because he's never been this mean before, but he's also never been put in a position where his authority has been questioned
or challenged.
He's always had the final say. The wives have always done the keep sweet. They've always done, he doesn't need to explain. He's doing what's best for the family. And so he's never had to really explain himself to anyone. And now he's having to explain himself. And so he's never had the backed up into a corner the way that he is now. And so he's never really maybe given the opportunity to be as mean as he is now. So maybe he's just always had it in him. I was surprised by my ex-husband at how mean he became and how many times police had to get involved to force him to do the things that he was supposed to do, because he had never been that mean before. And then all of a sudden, but it's almost like a lion in a cage. You back him into a corner and they come out and they're just aggressive and mean. So that's kind of moving forward. I feel like that's where Cody and Robin are coming from with some of their answers, is they don't need to report to the public because of our lower status in life. And then one of the things Cody says about Christine is, he's like, I don't want anything to do with her. And then he says the little statement.
Yeah. Vanya
Vio con Dios.
Vio con Dios. Yeah.
We're trying to
He's
learn Spanish.
bilingual. Yeah, we're trying to
Corey's clearly killing
do it.
it.
But yeah, and it means go with God. And so that's something that the within our group, if somebody has fallen away or broken, we don't want to, I don't know, we want to say, go with God. God will judge you.
Mhm.
You go with God.
It's like saying God
And
bless you.
yeah, yeah. Bless your bless your heart or bless your
heart.
soul. Yeah. And it's a way of him going, no, I no longer am in charge. I don't want to be. I was the leader of her family, her husband, but no, she gets to go with God now and be judged by him. I've washed my hands. So it's him basically washing his hands or dusting his feet off against her and pushing her out into the world to be judged by the world and by God, because he wants no longer to have any power or authority over her. And so it was a high and mighty little poke, try to
in
stab.
some religions, they physically will do that, dust their feet off with their family members and the people that they're exiling. And that's what that felt like to me too, is that's what he was doing. He was like, I'm washing my hands of you. They'll literally wash their hands, they'll dust their feet to get rid of that. And that's what it felt like when he said that.
Yeah. Back at the beginning, or back in the old days, they would do this ritual, dust your feet off, and turn that person over to the buffetings of Satan. Well, they've tried to clean that up now, and so now they're you go with God. God will take care of and judge you properly, type thing. And whether he wants to turn you over to Satan or forgive you, it's up to him. It's one of those things. It's up to God now to save her soul, because
she's unredeemable.
Yep, unredeemable. But if she doesn't get that released, and he gets up to heaven, and he does have that magic kingdom in heaven, it'll be funny to see what God does there. Yeah, based on their belief systems.
And then Robin comes out and she's like, I wish that they'd work on their own relationships without bringing my name into it. We talked about this a little bit on our last video. It's just interesting because when she was coming in and she knew all about polygamy, her name was brought up all the time. And now that here we are in the dissolution, the dissolving of the family, then she doesn't want her name brought up.
She sure, why is it okay for her to bring up all the other wives in conversation? Because Cody needs to know this, and Cody needs to know that. He needs to know what Janelle said to her, and she's bringing up name after name after name in her conversations. But oh no, Sacred Cow does not get to have her name brought up in any of their conversations, even though they're all supposed to be one family and be able to discuss what's going on within the family to make it one solid family. But moo moo, buckaroo. So
but yeah, so
Sacred Cow.
Brian, go.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Now my mind went blank. But Christine said she was so glad that Mary went and got the spiritual release and over abandonment, because they were all abandoned. Cody spent most of his time with Robin. And so that is one of the things that Cody was saying. And Robin too, they need to have these conversations without Robin's name, because he's saying, because my relationship with Robin is not affected by my relationships, what's happening with my other wives, other than my attitude, the way I'm acting about it. And that is probably really true, because but the problem is when Robin is the problem and he's not spending the same amount of time at each one of the homes, he can't work on those other relationships with the other women because he's spending the time at Robin's house. And that's the part that I don't think he understands. So he's going and he's having conversation with Janelle, and Janelle's like, yeah, you knew about this conversation that I had with Robin. I don't know how you knew about it unless she told you. And then Cody shuts her down and says, don't talk to me about that. We're trying to heal. That's only going to cause more problems. And she's like, then I can't talk to you about anything. When Robin is the problem and you can't talk about it. Now, Robin doesn't see herself as the problem. Cody doesn't see Robin as the problem. But these other wives do see Robin as the problem, because that's where his time went. So he can talk to Robin about what's happening with Janelle, and Robin clearly we saw that clip where Robin was like, yeah, I told Cody about that. I felt like he needed to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's having these conversations with Robin that he's shutting down other wives when they try to have the same kind of conversation with him. And then he's saying Robin's not the issue. Well, that is the issue, because if he's not home to actually have these healing conversations with, because that's where he's spending the bulk of his time, how does he not see that? I don't understand how he doesn't see that.
Well, and again, I don't know, but I'm just analyzing the three original. The reason that they were cohesive is because if there was a problem, he would have an open conversation with those wives. They could communicate about, hey, I'm having a problem with this person or that person, and then he would. I think he would kind of. That was normal, kind of pit them. That's why there's a lot of non-trust between some of the older wives, is because he was pitting them kind of against each other. And then Robin comes in and he's pitting or allowing Robin to play that same game. But when they want to have the conversation about Robin, then he's like, no, you don't get to say anything negative about Robin. But she's saying, or bringing up things, it doesn't matter. It's not hurting our relationship. So,
and you'll see this so happen all the time in polygamy, where the husband will have one confidant wife that he will talk to about anything, but he won't talk to the other wives about that kind of stuff. And then the wives are pitted against each other. And very seldom do you ever see two wives that go, this doesn't quite add up. I'm going to go directly to her and talk to her about it. And then you have two sister wives that talk directly to each other. That very seldom ever happens, because they want to believe that their priesthood head or their leader of their family has the best interest of the family at heart, and he's going to be honest about what's happening. And so they believe him when he tells them, Janelle said this about you, Christine said this about you, Mary said this about you. And so they want to believe him, and then their feelings are hurt. Now, what's happening too, and I think this is one of the reasons why Cody is so bitter towards Christine, is because Christine went, yeah, that doesn't sound right. And she went around him and went to Janelle. And she talked to Janelle. And her and Janelle have now had communication, which very seldom ever happens. But Mary has not maybe had some of those real direct, honest conversations. That's why Mary is unsafe.
Janelle did that and went and talked to Mary. And Mary had some reservation at the beginning, but then started to realize, holy cow, well, at least you might be right. So
yeah. Right. And that just doesn't really happen very often in this society, because typically when someone's feelings get so hurt, they just are like, I hate that person. I don't want to go talk to them now. And you already have multiple layers of emotions in this dynamic of women. And it's supposed to be this beautiful spiritual relationship, yet there's layers of hurt that don't often get resolved. And so I just think that, and then he goes, I wrote the F word on my paper because then he goes, so what do they want to hear from me? And he does this whole condescending apology to these women. And it's
a priesthood holder accountability.
Exactly. So. Because he doesn't need to be accountable he doesn't need to apologize to these women. He treated them no differently than he's always treated them. They're the ones who finally got a little bit of self-respect and a little bit of self-worth and decided that wasn't good and didn't want to be there. And they're the ones who left. So that's their problem, not his. He doesn't owe anyone an apology. So he gets up there and does this condescending, very like, ooh, ugh. And so it was,
Well, and he honestly feels like that he has honored each and every one of his covenants with each wife, and they're the ones that have broke their covenants or not fulfilled their end of the covenants or not. And so it's their fault that these marriages fell apart, not his. He was there. He was doing what he's always done from the get-go.
Right.
And for 19 years or 17 years or whatever it was, he's sitting there touting.
Able to get away with it.
Yeah. And he's saying, I don't have a favorite. We're all working together. They're all my favorite, blah, 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 blah. And now he's coming out with such, I feel like the whole thing of Mary is my favorite ex-wife was almost a jab at not only Mary, but at Christine and Janelle too. She's my favorite ex-wife. I do have favorites now. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And Christine, you're my least favorite. I wouldn't even go out on a double date. And I love how kind of Suki was asking those questions. Would you guys go out on a double date? And Cody's like, well, I would. Naughty or
had naughty thoughts.
Naughty thoughts.
That's like 2 pages away.
Oh, sorry.
3.5, 4 pages of notes on this episode. But yeah, no, that's towards the end though.
Yeah, it is. Sorry.
We'll
catch up with that.
But one of the things that Suki says, would you be friends with them, Janelle? And Janelle's like, yeah, no, I just don't like them. And Janelle is such a queen in the way that she answers. She's very classy in the way that she answers things. She's just like, yeah, I don't want those kind of people in my life. I don't like them. I don't want to be a part of them.
She's a lady.
Yeah, she is.
The 3 original wives are ladies.
Yep.
They are very classy in the way they handle.
Right. And I think it was very interesting and very telling how she answered that question and just put a stop to it. It was like, nope. And so Suki really didn't push any farther of, hey, okay, you guys can all be friends. I thought that was a bunch of you guys in our comments have said they're doing that, hoping that the show will continue. And so that makes sense. I understand that, because I felt like that was really awkward how she kept pushing that narrative of being friends and doing things together and going out on double dates. Like, that doesn't make sense. I don't know anyone who is still friends with their ex and still does things.
But we as viewers would watch it. So I would turn it on and watch it, see how it went, see if there's fireworks, and I feel like it was also Christine and David both kind of called Cody's bluff.
Yeah, like, okay, fine.
We'll go on the date, but not right now, but we'll go on a date.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and it's interesting too, because a lot of times you'll find yourself in an event with your ex's new spouse because it involves with children. And so, yeah, Corey uses kindness and laughter and joking to get through these awkward events. And he's just like, come on, be my best friend. And my ex-husband's like, go F yourself. And Corey's like, no, you know, you want to be buddies. You know, you want to be my friend. And so Corey's like, got his arm around him, being all buddy. But, some family, go ahead.
No, I just did that for that picture because, they were doing snap pictures and everything. And I'm taking pictures with my daughters and then with my sons, and he was coming over like, oh, I need to get in there and take pictures with them too. And I'm like, yeah, get in there. And so we took a couple pictures of that. And then I'm like, why are we not in a picture together, bud? So I went over there and put my arm around him. Let's get a picture. And he wasn't as happy with
some
it.
Friends we know got recently divorced, same kind of situation. And Corey, they're in a picture that's on social media because the son had graduated from a training center, and he's in the picture with his new brother husband that Corey refers to as brother husbands. And Corey snaps a picture. He's like, oh, look, you're in your first picture with your new brother husband. And that did not go over well. Yep. He didn't think it was funny. He was like, it's too soon, Corey. Stop joking about it. So Corey does try to handle things with laughter and just to try to make light of it, because this is such a heavy religion and everything has such severe consequences, all eternal consequences. And so everything has to be taken so literal and so like serious. And so Corey's just like, oh, really? Let's just.
And I'm the least serious person
in the room. Sometimes it's not obnoxious. I won't lie. But I do love that Christine did point that out, that Cody always has to have favorites. Even in divorce, Cody always has to have favorites.
And always has.
Yeah.
And always has.
The wives just didn't point it out in the first section of their marriage because it probably wasn't as blatant. They lived in the same home. So they didn't have, it was a lot less like, well, I'm just upstairs watching TV. Like, you can come up and get me if you want to. But now when they're in separate homes, it's blatant when he's spending a good portion of his time with one particular wife. Yeah. So then they could start talking about the sexual innuendos of Mary backing up into Cody and how funny that was. this, I've gotten some criticism about Mary being my favorite. I've always loved Mary. She's very lighthearted. She's very funny. Yes, she might have had some experiences with the younger kids that have had issues with her, but this is the Mary that I always knew, was that very lighthearted, very funny, carefree, just, which I've always really appreciated about her, which is one of the reasons why I always got along with her well. But they're talking about how inappropriate this is because they're no longer married. Again, this is where all the seriousness comes into everything, because you do not behave this way if you are not married. You don't behave this way if and so she felt body parts on this man that she hasn't felt or touched in years. And that is extremely inappropriate, especially when he's committed his body to Robin. What a joke. When he said that, I was like, oh my God, you are the most self-righteous man. So my question in this is, why can they take a sexualized photo where Robin is pushing her body into Cody on top of the convertible in the sunset? These are their engagement photos, and that's okay. She's in 6-inch stilettos. She looks like it's such a sexualized photo, and that's okay for her to do that with someone else's husband. But now all of a sudden this is inappropriate, and Cody's totally fine with it. He posed for the picture too, but now all of a sudden he's going to throat punch his best friend because he's pushing his
ex-wife.
Yeah, the hypocrisy at this level is just really...
Well, it's because we as Gentiles are judging their morality, and we have no right to. So they would never do that kind of stuff. They're a higher level of higher human beings, and they would never do anything inappropriate before. And so this was and
they've made sure
him
to
putting him into a questionable situation. And I loved Robin's face, because at the very beginning, it's almost like I could read her mind, because she's like kind of looking at it. She's got that, and then she's like, oh shit, I should be smiling, laughing, and joking about this so I don't make it more than, oh yeah, this is funny.
This is how I love it, when they're playful like
yeah,
this.
I wish they had done that. I wish they had done that. Although in her mind, she still got in the back. Well, this is just, like Janelle said, gospel according to Corey. But she's judging that the priesthood leader has now released them from their covenant. There's no longer a covenant there, so that behavior is no longer acceptable.
Right.
And so Cody's basically, I feel like, apologizing. Yes, I
publicly
would,
to Robin.
To Robin, yeah. That was an irritating scene for Robin, because the priesthood leader had released them, and that behavior was unacceptable. And so that's why he's saying this body is now for Robin only. But I've made that covenant with her. It's only for her. These other wives have broken their covenants, and they don't get any more of this amazing priesthood holder. So
no, I think that, and they've made sure to say several times in this tell-all, Cody has at least, and I think Robin has said it a couple different places we've seen it. We were very chaste when we were dating. When we were courting, we were very chaste. There was no sexual anything. And I think a lot of that is because they have been picked apart online, especially for sexualizing a photo like that before they were married. And I know I might beat that photo to death, but that was an extremely, here he's talking about extremely inappropriate behavior. That photo is extremely inappropriate for not being married, and him having 3 wives, one of which was about to give birth or had already barely given birth. That photo was extremely... This is going to be a super long video too, by the way, because we have 3 pages of notes, and I love all your guys' comments that said, we don't care, keep your videos longer. So you're going to get a lot more insight on this one. But yeah, I will beat that photo to death. No longer the same as I will an 11-day honeymoon. It's completely inappropriate for the responsibilities that he already had going on at home. And so I just find that level of hypocrisy,
but those
pretty typical.
Those responsibilities he had at home were aging him. So he needs to stay younger and more vibrant. So
yeah, she was going to...
You're judging him on his youngness and vibrance. So
I know. And one of the things too is that she asks Christine, what she feels about Cody having favorites. She asks Robin what she feels, and Robin came out and said, I hadn't drawn those lines yet. I still thought there was a chance for their relationship. When Robin said she hadn't drawn those lines yet, that infuriated me, because here's Christine 9 months pregnant through, here's Robin coming into the family, and there were lines drawn, and Robin didn't care about those lines. She stepped over those lines several times by taking an 11-day honeymoon, by taking photos with Cody before their sexualized photos, by kissing and making out with Cody, and they made it appear that they were not married at that time, while Christine's in labor. So ask me why all of a sudden these OG 3 wives are all of a sudden supposed to give half a shit about Robin and her lines that she's drawn around their behavior around her husband, when she disregarded those lines when they were dating. It just, because I've seen this happen so many times, it's one of those things where it's like, I can't express the hypocrisy enough, but yet it's so typical. This is what happens. And unfortunately, and so, but she never asks Janelle, which I thought was really interesting, because Mary's like, I want to be in a good place with him, which leads me to believe that, maybe there wasn't as much angst. Cody wants to make Mary, there was just all this, there was antagonizing between our relationship. It was so antagonistic. So he says all of these things about Mary, why he can't stay in a relationship with her, because it's too antagonistic. And yet she's the only one who's giving him any grace. Janelle's done with him. She's done being thrown under the bus. Christine is angry, which I do not blame Christine at all for the level of anger that she has towards this. And yet Mary, maybe one day Mary will find some of that in her and want to heal some of that anger. It might take her a while to get there, but she wants to be in his good graces. And this is how we're taught. Keep sweet. Don't piss them off. Don't do anything that would cause this kind of discontent. So I think it's interesting that he wants Mary to be his best friend or best ex-wife when she was so antagonistic while they were married. It doesn't make sense. And then Robin says, I hadn't drawn the lines yet. And Christine says he's just being an asshole when he goes and says, Mary's being my favorite ex-wife. So there's just some of the background that I see there. I just find Robin's hypocrisy with the line drawing way too much.
Well, and there is a teaching I guess not only within the AUB, within most religions, that if your premarital sex or after marital sex is so, so that is one of the teachings in the faith. We got divorced for 2 years, and
we got divorced for 2 years.
And
everyone had
everybody had an opinion on should we, as a divorced couple, we had 2 children together, had been married for 15 years. So
you guys better be being chased.
Yeah, you better be being chased even when we were working things out and going. Many people within the religions had an opinion on
Many people in the LDS church had an opinion.
Whether we should, and it's because it's a teaching that if you haven't said I do, or you don't have that marriage license, or you haven't done it over the altar, anything is considered inappropriate before.
Yeah.
So
it
is. It's a teaching, and Robin follows the teaching. So there was the minute that the priesthood leader called and said, you got to release, that line was drawn for her. So, I hadn't drawn the line yet. Yes, you had. That line was drawn instantly, and the behaviors got out of hand, but she's going to be the better wife, the least judgy, but there was conversations behind. And that was it was definitely a public apology. And
I thought that was interesting the way she said that too. What I love too is then Suki kept pushing Mary, and she was like, are you, now that he loves this part of you, loves that you're his favorite ex-wife, do you regret getting your spiritual release? And I love how solid Mary was. No, I don't. No, absolutely. That release was the best thing I ever did for myself. Best thing I ever, and I love how solid she was in that. So I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, Mary hasn't done any healing. To me, she absolutely has, because she was very solid in that. And sometimes you'll see people like, even we didn't get spiritually married in the Polygamous church, but we did get legally married. And obviously we weren't solid in that. We wanted to make things work. So we tried to work things out after we were divorced. But in this religion, if you get that release, you're done. Like you get sealed. You're sealed for all eternity.
Mm-hmm.
You get that release, you're done for all eternity. And so you are literally making eternal decisions. You better be solid in it. And I really, really loved how solid Mary was in it. But one of the things he said that Suki asks Cody too, are you sad about that release or anything like that? And he was like, no, I don't ever want to get back together with Mary. He was, because of how antagonistic she was in the relationship. And I don't know. I get so frustrated listening to him, because he has a reason why each one of the wives caused the divorce. And I'm like, really? Okay. And nothing you did brought that. Nothing you antagonized brought that divorce. It was just
based on his belief system. That's why he said, what did he say? He did the whole gaslighting line. You have a different opinion, what you've seen. I have a different opinion of what I know is going on. We're never going to agree. And so from his opinion, they all the three of them have broken their covenants with him. Right. He does not feel it's all right for him to put somebody on the burner if they're being disobedient, or put them out to pasture if they're being disobedient or not following what he is saying. It's okay. It's okay for him to go over and spend time with the family and the wife that is fulfilling him and uplifting him. None of that's against their covenants. What is against their covenants is them saying, I'm done. I'm leaving, and I'm going to do it on my own, including Janelle hasn't got a release. She was never, but she doesn't want anything to do with him again. Because of that, she has broke her covenants with him. He has not broken his.
Well, she hasn't really, though, because she hasn't done anything. She hasn't met another man. She hasn't, that we're aware
based
of.
On their, but he feels like that she has, if any abandonment happened, she abandoned his family.
Okay, and this is one
and
of
him and his family. That's their teachings.
Yeah, watching this is, it's like these men can literally do this to these women. I can walk away from you. I can ignore you. I cannot have anything to do with you. And it's your job to just sit there till I come back. And if you don't like that, too bad. You made an eternal promise, an eternal covenant, an eternal commitment. And so I can do all these things to you, but the minute that you push back as a woman, you have now hurt that man. And we don't talk about the things that the man did that caused the woman to get to the point of, okay, I'm done. I want to get out of here. I don't want to be treated like. That's never talked about in this religion. It's only talked about, well, I put her on a shelf. I told her I'd get back to her. I don't know what the hell she's thinking, leaving like this. Like, she's the one breaking the covenant in the marriage, not me. Mary's the one abandoning the relationship, not me. And so abandonment was the perfect reason to give Mary her release. And again, that does not happen very often. It's happening more often now, because I feel like this behavior with these polygamous men is gotten so out of control. It's just like, oh, well, and plus with the internet and these women getting more access to seeing what the outside world is actually like, women are like, well, wait a minute, I don't have to be treated this way. What? I didn't know that I didn't have to be treated this way. I didn't know that I didn't have to be treated that way. I didn't know that my husband could go out and do all of these extracurricular activities and hire these women to do these things for him. And I didn't have to just take that. I didn't know that. And so it took me till I was 25 to figure that out.
Yeah, you were supposed to long live and suffer and hang into the end, keeping your covenants.
Having
and
your
you would
loneliness.
You would be blessed in the end, no matter what you went through. And he would be judged by his priesthood leaders, but you couldn't judge him.
Right.
So
that's
the job.
Yeah. So they're talking about the way he melts down and cries when he's moving Mary. And Suki asks all the wives about it. And she asks Mary, and Mary's like, yeah, I was really confused. I just wanted to see this thing play out. And shame on this man for doing this. And this is what happens. They treat these women, they abandon these women, they put them on shelves. They do. I mean, I was put on a shelf. And then the minute that I'm like, no, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore, then the love bombing happens. And so all of a sudden, like you were saying earlier, he throws a little hook out there into Mary saying, are you still hooked? Yeah. Are you still going to do my whim and my beck and my calling? Are you still going to be there for me?
How long were they married?
20.
Yeah. So for 27 years, she's been putting him up on a pedestal
and forgiving him
and worshiping. And now she got that spiritual release, and he's like, really? He just can't comprehend it. And so he's going through his grief, but he just throws out a little hook.
Can I still get her to jump when I say jump?
Is there still anything there? And so, I'm glad she was like, no, Cody, you quit. You can grieve, just grieve by yourself over there. You don't get to pick up the phone and tell me you're grieving still. That's him just putting the little hook in, saying, are you still attached? So do I still have any attachment to you? And so,
well, and then Robin is just like, why? She's wondering why. I think personally, listening to her talk about that, she's a little angry that he did that. She feels a little betrayed, maybe in their sacred covenant and their divine relationship. She's like, wait a second. And she had to ask herself the question, was I not enough? Am I not enough? Is that why you have to go back to Mary? It's because what we have together is no longer enough. Will she be? And she did say that on one of the later episodes of season 19. I don't know if I'm enough for Cody, because he's lived polygamy so long. I don't know if one woman is enough for him. So she had to have some of those doubts when she watched that scene. He probably went home and told her, but then when she actually watched how dramatic it actually was, she was probably like, am I enough for you now? And I love how Christine was angry about it. She just called it, what a crappy thing to do to Mary. What, like, you had 10 years of putting this woman on a shelf. And now that she's finding her own voice and finding her own self, this is what you do to her. You stand in front of her sobbing your head off. Like, what a crap. And so I don't blame Christine for the level of anger that she feels. I feel like Christine's anger is justified. I would love to see all three of the ex-wives have a little bit more anger.
Well, and Christine seems like she's kind of the mother bear, and he's been messing emotionally. I watched you do this. She's been emotionally messing with the other two wives, the children, all of this stuff. This is a behavior that she's calling out, and it's just not Mary. It's probably an emotional behavior, something that he constantly does to all of the kids, to all of them, to try to keep.
Do I still have my claws in you even just a little bit? If I don't, what do I need to do to fix that?
And I was going to go back and, sorry, I missed this. Cody feels justified that he tried with each and every one of these marriages right up to the end. I was the last one. He went and took Janelle out. He put up his boundaries. You don't get to talk about Robin. She's like, okay, then I'm done. But he tried, and so she abandoned him. Christine abandoned him. You know what I mean? With Mary, he absolutely believes that she abandoned him. And so if there's any abandonment that happened, it's on their fault, because he tried each and every.
He took Janelle to Josephina's or whatever and tried to talk to her, and she just wanted to talk about Robin.
Yeah, and Robin probably said, no, you need to go out and try. And so he feels like he has put in the effort that he needed to do to repair or to do these things. They've all fallen apart. They're the ones that abandoned him. He shouldn't have been brought up on charges of abandonment. So so sorry, I missed that little note there.
No, I think you're good. And I think it's interesting. Again, Suki we didn't hear Janelle's response on that. So we didn't hear Janelle's response on the sexual backing Mary up into Cody, and we also didn't hear Janelle's response in Cody crying and sobbing when he moves Mary. So I think it's interesting.
It might be on next
Yeah.
episode.
And maybe they'll talk about it later, but yeah, we're on now on page 3 of 4. So we're going to be a minute. We got a little bit more. Okay. Then I'm right at the point now of Cody calling Mary a couple of weeks previous to the tell-all and telling him he's still grieving their relationship. My question to that is, if they've been putting out this public persona that him and Robin have this divine relationship, they have this divine spiritual connection. They're so happy. They're so in love. They're buying a new house. They're doing all of these things. He's baptizing the daughter. The kids are always constantly, oh, we love our parents. We want a relationship. We want a soulmate relationship too. Why is he calling Mary then? If he's so satisfied in his relationship with Robin, why is he calling Mary and asking and telling Mary that he's still grieving the loss of their relationship? I mean, set Mary's reaction aside, because Mary's reaction was spot on and amazing, and I loved but why is he doing that? Again, I think it goes back to putting the clause in him. He wants to know that he still has a level of power over her, because honestly, for me, in my experience, the men in this religion, it's not about the sacredness of it. It's about the power grab. It's the power grab. It's the money grab. It's what can I do to dominate these women? And all of a sudden, when I don't feel like I have that under my control anymore, what do I have to do to get that back? How do I have to manipulate? And so then Christine comes back. No, I'm tired of the manipulation and the lies and the deceit. And this is one of those forms of manipulation that she's talking about, is the fact that he could, what on earth does he think he's doing calling and telling her that? And he's probably pretty pissed off that she made that public announcement to the world that he did that too, because that makes him look even more foolish. So now he's a failure and a fool. What is this man going to do with his life? Because it's not about his ego. At one point it was all about the ego baby, and now it's not. Now it's about the children and the family. Ugh. So I just don't understand where his and Robin's relationship was at that time. And we feel like Robin has been, you don't hear Robin say, no, he's a wonderful father anymore. We haven't heard her make all these public declarations about how wonderful Cody is anymore. We feel that she's laying these foundational seeds to be able to leave Cody eventually. I feel like moments like that, where she's like, why were you calling Mary and telling her you're still grieving the relationship? Why were you trying to have that of an intimate connection with someone that you're not literally even sealed to anymore? If you would have done that with Janelle or Christine, that might have been a little bit different of a story, because they're still sealed together for all time and all eternity, as far as we know.
Not with Christine, though, because Robin already
matter. She's still sealed to him.
I know, but Robin put down the
as soon as
she's with another
intimate relations with another man, that seal is broken.
Yep.
Okay, let's address that for a minute. Yes, I've heard that before. Yes, and we've talked about this before on our channel. But then she still does belong to Cody if she doesn't get that release. She still does belong to him. She'll just be a servant. She'll just be a lower class citizen, that type of thing.
She'll be still the third wife. Robin moved to first. Janelle still be second. She'll still be the third wife. Yeah. Third wife ranking still. Sorry, Christine.
Yep. So heaven. I'm sure that whole situation, and I'm curious if Cody told Robin that he had this conversation with Mary. I'm curious, because based on Cody's past behavior and based on what I see with most polygamous men, he would not have disclosed that to his other wives, because it's none of their business. He's doing what he needs to do that makes, that betters him and betters the family. And so he would not need to disclose that information, that he had this intimate conversation with Mary and telling her he's still grieving their relationship. And so is that the first time Robin heard that? Was watching it on the tell-all? I don't know.
And Cody would said, Mary's lying. So I would never do that.
Yeah. Well, and good on Mary for handing that back to him. Yep. Good on Mary for saying, you know what, this isn't mine. You don't get to call me. And okay. And right there, when she says, you don't get to call me and tell me about this grief. Yes, I do. Another level of his entitlement, that these men feel like they own these women, and he is entitled to do with Mary whatever he feels like he needs to do. I mean, for hell's sakes, I've been divorced 25 years and my ex-husband still feels like he owns me. He still has made comments recently that he feels like he owns me. On public social media for everyone to be able to read. It's public. He didn't even try to make it private. And so these men, I know it was such a shit show, but these men feel so entitled that they own, that we are owned objects. And so when Mary tells him, you don't get to say this to me. Yes, I do.
This is why she's fired up. It's not only fired up because her ex-husband is making claims on her too.
Oh my gosh.
And so when she hears same words kind of coming out of all of the priesthood holders' mouths, she gets irritated. So
again, Cody is not the exception.
Yeah, he's probably one of the nicer ones of
his poor behavior that you as the general public are viewing is not the exception. He is more the rule than the exception. Mm-hmm. And so it is. We had to pause this one a lot so I could go off on little rants because it was so infuriating. Because I've watched this happen over and over and over where they feel so entitled, to ownership. So, yeah. So I wrote that down. Why is Cody saying these things to Mary so far down the line of their story? Why? I mean, she's now been moved to Parowan. She's doing all of these things. What is happening in his relationship with Robin, or his personal life that is causing him to reach out to her?
You're causing slivers in their marriage.
I'm not trying to cause slivers, but this is where my mind goes to, what happens. And you can't tell me that Robin didn't question this. I know people think Robin's dumb. She is maybe not very book smart, but she is very, very, she knows
Polygamous smart.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing. And unfortunately, in this religion, you are taught to manipulate real quick when you're a young woman. You're taught to manipulate other women. You're taught to manipulate situations. And I think Robin caught on to that lesson real quick. She is not dumb when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so I'm sure that these are some of the things that went through her mind right when she heard that this conversation happened. So yeah, that was one of the things that was the first thought that I had was, what is happening in his life right now that he feels entitled to bring this up to Mary, and B, grieving and sad enough to bring it up to Mary? What is Mary going to do for you? Put a Band-Aid on it? It's not her problem. You're not her problem anymore. Mm-hmm. You are now Robin's problem. Mary doesn't want that problem and left it and went so far as to get released from.
The prophet, seer, and revelator says you're no longer her problem. So quit it.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Okay. There's my little rant about that. Okay. And then they're talking about, did you have anything else you wanted to put in on that?
No.
Before I skip over it? Okay.
I was waiting for you to get to the, because you just did book. She's not book smart, so. Waiting for you to get that next line.
Because we paused the TV, we're like, I don't think she knows what that word means. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we know Cody doesn't know what a lot of the words that he uses means. Hell, we're very uneducated. I don't know half the words I use if I know what the actual meaning is now. And so, yeah. So they're talking about meeting David. Suki's asking him, what did you think of David? How did that first meeting go? Cody makes he's so arrogant. He's one of the most arrogant men I've ever met or ever seen.
He's in a good group of arrogant men. Yeah. There's quite a few of them.
Right. So. But he's like, I love watching. It's like watching an old friend fall in love. I love watching their love story unfold. And what's so great about it is if she's in love talking, with somebody else, then she's not talking about me. Because, everything is always about Cody all the time. Everything is always about these men all the time. And here's the thing. If I ever really want to mess with my ex-husband, I just have to make him think something I'm talking about is about him. And then it's weeks and weeks of, she's thinking about me. So
you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah. Oh, he's literally, these men are like not one in a million, not in a million years will this ever, but you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. Like it's a Dumb and Dumber line. Yeah. It's a brilliant line.
Oh, is it on the movie?
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber, where he's like, like 1 in 1,000? No, more like 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance.
See, I've never seen that show. Yeah. That's right up your alley in humor.
It's great. Great show.
But yeah.
I lived it.
I think that's hilarious. But the whole time Robin's talking, she's doing this. She doesn't she's flippant about her answers. She doesn't really care. So they're talking about meeting Robin meeting David and Christine, and they're giving all their experiences of, she's just doing this. And I just think it was extremely frustrating to watch her because she's just so superior to everyone else. And we do see that a lot when you get these women who, and truthfully, they know how to manipulate. So they are superior and they know they are, and they're going to let everyone else know how inferior they are. But yeah, at that point, she's doing this with her hand. And then Suki says something about divorcing, and all of a sudden you see her sit up and own her own energy again. Because before, she's not even in the energy that we have seen her all these previous seasons. She's just in this, I don't even care. And like I said, I'm not going to say that she was on drugs or anything like that, but she was sedated in some form or another. She was not all the way there. And all of a sudden, when Suki says something about divorce, you see her sit right up, own her own energy, and she's about to tell Christine exactly how divorce happens.
Here comes pro-divorce.
Yeah.
Robin, she knows everything about it.
Yeah, she drops her hand, and from that point on, throughout the rest of the episode, she doesn't put her hand under her chin anymore. Now she's more engaged. Now she's more, well, let me tell you, too bad. You don't get to keep, he's going to be a part of your life for the rest of your life. We're going to be at things, blah, 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 blah. And she starts to really she's about to give Christine a wag of the finger and tell Christine exactly what's what.
Until it's we're going to show up. And that's how these things, we're raising kids together. Oh, okay, good. Would you guys go on a double date? Christine and, we'll do that. So, no. Oh, shit. They're calling our bluff. So Cody's like, yeah, that'll never happen.
But I do appreciate how Christine said, absolutely not right now, but maybe later.
Maybe in the future.
Because she is open to more healing. She's open to more possibilities. She's open. And that is a sign of healing when you are open to other possibilities. Like right now, that's not a possibility and she knows it. And so she's being careful about who she allows in her bubble.
Yeah.
So.
But one of the things that she's not only said, but I see her doing in at least this last season, was talking to the kids about their dad. Hey, almost encouraging them to have a relationship with their dad, do stuff like that. I've yet to see Cody talking to children saying, yes, I'm so glad you have a great relationship with your other mothers or your mom or whatever it is. Right. So she's saying and living the way that Cody and Robin are both saying, okay, we're going to do that now. We're going to be involved in their lives. If we'll be there. Right. So,
well, and she does make the comment, when they're talking about the divorce, she makes the comment that it's hard that she gets the mind games and she's ill-treated, and that it's hard to know that you need to leave, and it's hard to know how to leave, and it's hard to know when to leave. And this is true for any cult, I believe. It was extremely hard for me when I had to leave with 3 babies and no high school diploma. And I knew that I needed to leave because the abuse was getting so severe that I didn't know how to leave. How do I leave? How do I get divorced? What do I do? I'm not legally married. I'm not, I'm only spiritually married. And so that is one of the worst mind games you can go through, because are you sure you can leave? Are you sure you? And so I did leave once and then went back and then again and left 2 years later because it was the abuse had gotten so severe at that point. And so I think that that's one of the scariest things especially when you're a parent and you have to leave and you have to take your children from this experience. And how do you do that? What does that look like in the mechanical part of it? What does that look like? How does that, how do you actually make that work? She had to give it a lot of thought. I'm sure she sought counsel from her father or from other people. Like, how does this work?
Well, it's a lot harder than just, hey, I'm leaving a husband.
Right.
And a family, you have basically knelt down across an altar, made a commitment for time and all eternity in front of your community, your family. You're not only leaving a husband and a family, you're leaving a faith, you're leaving your eternal salvation and turning your back on all of that and walking away. It is a huge decision. And we have been trained since birth that you don't leave. And if you're going to leave, she's not only making the decision to leave Cody, but the faith, her salvation itself it's a huge decision. You're turning your back on all of it. And so,
and you don't know how people are going to treat you.
Yeah.
You don't know how you're going to be received on the other side.
And if you're wrong, you're damned for eternity.
Yeah.
So and it's your damnation that you're putting on the line. Yeah.
And now you're involving your children in this decision too. And now you need to leave with your children. And I think it was a little bit easier for Christine because she wasn't fully engulfed in the faith at that point. They had removed themselves from the faith. So I think for her, it was maybe it's never an easy decision, but for her, she didn't have a lot of that church ties as well. Where, it is one of the hardest things, scariest things I have ever done. And making that decision for me I had a 14-month-old baby when I left. And so those are not easy decisions to make. And I'm 25. I have no wisdom. I have very few life experiences to make such a life altering decision. And so, I respect so much Christine for making that decision and for being first.
Yep.
Because when you're first, she opened up that gate for Mary to be able to leave, for Janelle to be able to leave. Because so many times these women, they don't know that they can, or they know that they can, they just don't know how or what to do. And so then they just tolerate it for years and they stay single. They stay by themselves. They finish raising their children alone. They do all of these things by themselves, and that was one of the things that I was told. You just need to stay single. Just don't ever go get married again. You'll be fine. I'm 25 years old with with 3 little kids, a 14-month-old. And so, it was, and another public post my ex-husband just recently did was she made, how did he say it? She made, these for eternal mistakes, and that were irredeemable mistakes. That's how he said it. She made these irredeemable mistakes. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm the irredeemable mistake you made.
Love.
Sorry.
You are.
Brother, husband, I don't like what you said about me.
And so, And so he was angry and frustrated that I had made these, irredeemable mistakes. And he puts this just barely like 2 weeks ago on social media, and how he still has so much bitter and angerness towards me, towards his ex-father-in-law, my dad, who's the prophet, and how he would, like to walk with my father again in righteousness. Yeah. So anyways,
I'm so glad I'm not a part of that religion anymore.
Yeah.
So I've been out of it a lot longer than I was in it. But when we talk about it and joke about it, I'm just like, oh, I'm in such a better place. This is awesome. I've got a sense of humor about the way we grew up. This is so much better than growing up in misery. So
I give a lot of kudos to Christine for making this really hard decision and doing it first. Again, I was the first one to leave. Again, out of 350 plus grandchildren, I was the first one to get married and leave that way. And it opened the door. It opened energetically a door for so many other people to remove themselves from that. And so when you're the first one to go, it's scary. Like you're literally jumping off a cliff and you're hoping there's something to catch you at the bottom. So when I hear Christine talk, and I know I've seen some comments and stuff about, oh, Christine's still so angry. She has every right to be angry. And kudos to David for being by her side through this, because that's not an easy place to be either. Kudos to you, love.
No. And I think her anger is not necessarily, if Cody said something about, but it stings, but something about Christine, that's fine. He says something about the other wives or how they didn't put in enough effort or things like that, or says anything about the kids, you turn on mom bear, mother bear. She will, she has, and that's the thing that I love. What did Cody said? Christine is very undermining. Polygamous terms, that means she's holding him accountable for his words and his actions, and that's undermining his priesthood authority. She's coming with me with truth and with actual numbers and all this. She's holding my feet to the fire and to account, and the priesthood leader doesn't have to be held to account by her, by somebody else. And she's making so much sense, and that's undermining my authority as a priesthood holder. So, yeah. I just laughed when he said, yeah, she's undermining. Yeah, she is, dude. She's calling you on your bullshit. So that's undermining. Then everybody here today is undermining you. So
and it's very exactly how you just said that is exactly how it is. And Cody got into that discussion because he was saying, I'm a very forgiving person. I'm very forgiving, but I can't forgive for Christine because she's undermining me. I was like, what?
I'm like the Lord, I forgive freely.
Yeah.
So,
oh my god.
Good priesthood holder forgives freely. So
Christine comes back with, yeah, I don't, they're bantering. Oh, here, let me go through these steps first. But he talks about how forgiving he is. And he's like, oh yeah, I had a dirty thought about David.
I had a dirty thought. I should, yeah. And we're like,
punctuation matters, right? Yeah. Does it?
It does.
And so, about going on a guy's trip and, that just wouldn't be cool. That would be cool to Christine. And David's like, yeah, I would go, but I'd have to change some of the rules. That's between
there'd have
me
to be
and Cody.
rules.
And I'm like, all of this sounds really inappropriate. But yeah, I feel like if David is such a nice guy, if David, like, this is where we need Janelle to step in, because David's like, yeah, I just don't like them. I don't want to be friends with them. I don't need to be in their lives.
Yeah, I'm curious if what those rules are, because does David have to sit across from an altar and make some sort of covenant with him before he can?
Does he have to be a tryst?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know what those rules are.
Yeah. Go on a guy's trip with my ex-husband. He's like, I already have.
Oh well, yeah. Not a guy's trip. I've gone on activities with our kids. So
yep, and he's
come along.
He's been
he's come along because I actually know how to tie flies and fix fishing rods. So
well, and so then Christine comes back and she's like, yeah, I would be a mess. I'd be a wreck before we went on this double date, if we ever did this double date or that we ever became friends. And Suki asks her why, and she's like, because after 26 years, the things that he accuses me of, after 26 years, he doesn't know who I am. I gave everything to this family, everything to these children. And this is where I have so much empathy and I relate so much to Christine, because you could see that in we're only on season 3. We're just watching the show for the first time and we're on season 3. And you can already see how much she devotes everything that she does to this family. That's what she was born and raised to do. That's what we were all born and raised to do. I gave every ounce of me to my ex-husband, and it was never enough. They always needed something else. Christine was always put on a shelf. This is just how, and so she's frustrated and angry because here he is accusing her of doing all of these things. And she's like, you have no idea who I am. Didn't you see me sacrifice all of this for all these years so that you could be this person up here and the family was beneath you?
Against all the evidence.
Yeah.
I mean, he's accusing her of not, well, all the evidence shows she still has a relationship with all of the kids she helped raise. She still has this bond, this relationship. She can sit and communicate with Mary and Janelle. She has more of a relationship with his ex-wives than he does. So yes, all the evidence proves that he's shooting bullshit out of his butt. And So, and she's irritated with that because, again, she's got evidence that says what he's saying is untrue, but yet she's being undermining because she's like, here's the evidence.
And
so
he doesn't like that. He doesn't like being held to account
me.
from somebody who should not be holding him to account. And that's what she says. She's like, 26 years, he doesn't know who I am. Mm-hmm. I went all in. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I never would have gotten divorced. I went all in. I never would have left. I never would have gotten divorced had he have not forced my hand into leaving, which I'm glad, because now we're together and I adore the hell out of you. But it's one of those things that it's like, I don't know. They force you into these situations and then cry foul when you go, okay, fine. If that's really what you want, if you really don't want to be around me, you really don't want to be in my life, okay, I'll go away. And now.
Yeah. We as a religion, their religion teaches that we fought a war in heaven over free agency. And yet when you make a covenant at 17, like you're going to be held accountable to that, and you do not have, you gave up your right to your free agency.
Yep. And how did I not understand that 8 days into 17 when I made this covenant over this altar for all the rest of it?
And you were told you were supposed to do that all the way up to 8 days of 17. This is what you're supposed to do. Okay, now you've done it. Wait a minute. Now I've got a full functioning brain. I don't want to do this anymore. Oh, too bad. Free agency's gone. So
you signed that away when you signed that paper over the altar. And so then Suki asks Cody, where's your relationships? Oh, I've got a good relationship with Mary now. And of course, I've read online that this was a couple of weeks before they did the tell-all before Mary got to see a lot of the seasons. Who knows where their relationship is now? He says he doesn't have a good relationship with Christine because she's too undermining. And once again, they don't ask Janelle. So I'm really curious why Janelle has not answered. Like, I don't think it's because Janelle hasn't answered them. I think Janelle probably gave the same answer every single time. I don't like them. I don't want to be around them. I don't want to have anything to do about that. And then we get to the point where we have like almost like a stare down. And Suki asks Cody, why not just meet Christine where she's at? And he just sits there and stares at her. Like, talk about a toddler throwing a tantrum. Now,
it's a priesthood holder holding a woman accountable for abandoning him.
And then teaching the other girls that they can abandon
do it too. She's the one that led them astray.
But I think it's interesting because he just stares at her, won't say anything to her, flicks the little piece of hair off, and she's like, oh, I thought that might be symbolic that you're just discarding my question, that you're just discarding Christine,
yeah.
Right. And he was like, nothing to say. Now, a lot of comments in our comment section are saying that he had a court order, that Christine had just filed for child support after that. I think I heard that there was a gag order, so he wasn't really able to say. But I think it's interesting that he didn't shut his mouth a good portion of the rest of the episode, but then all of a sudden it's like, why not just meet Christine where she's at? Good for Christine for holding this man accountable financially for his children.
Legally
and financially for his children. And again, this couple weeks ago, my ex-husband did this entire big post about how he went to jail over and over and over for contempt of court because he was court ordered to do things, pay child support, do certain things, and he ignored them because he was above the law. And now, all of a sudden, if Cody wants to maintain this lifestyle that he's creating with Robin, all of these elite artifacts that they're, what are they called? Like investments that he and Robin are doing. If he wants to maintain that lifestyle, he's going to have to pay financially for his decisions. And he's angry and bitter at Christine for making him do this. And so he's not going to meet her where she's at. She's in a bad place. She left and told the other women they could do it. And now all of a sudden she wants him to be accountable. And you can just see the venom in his face, in his eyes. Oh, yeah. And honestly, I just think it was very interesting because in the past, the priesthood holder, the men of the family, their word is the final word. Their word is, this is it. Don't question me again. I've already given you my answer. I have to look and see what's best for the entire family. I have to make these decisions. I have to do that, give you my word. And now, so his word to Christine in one of the episodes was, you're going to leave, you're going to go find a man, and then you're going to come after me for my money. No, I'm not going to do that. He makes her promise. No, I'm not going to do that.
Prophet Cody.
And so he gave her his final word that she doesn't get to come after him for child support. She doesn't get to come after him for any of his assets. And now she's going around him into the legal system, and he's pissed. He's so angry because he gave her his final word and she doesn't listen to him. Who the hell does she think she is? I mean, hello, this is what we as women were raised to do. We were raised to take our husband's word as the final word. No one else has any authority over us. And if we decide to bypass our husband and go to a higher priesthood level person, that comes with repercussions as a wife. I've heard of physical altercation, physical repercussions to women, mental, emotional, all sorts of repercussions that these men inflict on these women if they dare question them and go around them. And so the venom in Cody's eyes when he's just staring at Suki, yeah, it kind of put shivers down my spine because I've seen that so many times where these men are just, there's a level of infuriate. They're so angry at a core level. This is going to cause cancer. He needs to be careful about that.
Whatever. He's getting 10 years younger.
Yeah.
So,
well, and so many times these women don't do it. It's the keep sweet motto. It's the, okay, I don't want to question my husband. Well, I'll fall into line. I'll do what he tells me to do.
If he doesn't live longer, he'll blame it on Christine. She's the one that's aging him right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so it's frustrating to watch that because he truly believes he's a power into himself. And that he only needs to, again, report to his priesthood head, and he no longer believes in that. So now he's just like, what? He's the be all to end all? I don't know. So, how much, you got anything else you want to put on that?
Nope.
Okay. So, yeah, so the venom in his eyes. All right. The last thing I wanted to say was, about the end of the episode is that Robin gave very simple answers. She really didn't contribute anything. I didn't feel like she did. Did you?
Well, she did the Moo Moo Buckaroo, which I enjoyed. And so, and
we
then
laughed a lot over that one.
And like I said, I think in another one, she took that. Yeah, they're making fun of me and everything, but they got the sacred right. I am the sacred, and I'll be their sacred cow, but I am the most sacred. I have fulfilled my...
For her to say she doesn't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
Everyone knows what that is.
So, yep, she's the sacred cow, and she's going to take that badge of honor. So good for you, Robin. Got it.
Right. And so I just think it's interesting all the way to where Cody just all of a sudden stays silent at the end. I'd made the comment when we did our live reaction, when we watched it and did the live reaction, that good on him for following Robin's orders. Because Robin gave him an order to not hang himself on national television. And he couldn't help but spew out some of it. But he was very careful all the way through the episode about what he was saying. Most of the time, he was very careful. Corey's like, he's doing lawyer speak. He probably got set aside by an attorney and said, be careful.
Don't say this. Don't say that. And she's like, don't let, that's where I think he's using the words that he was told. Don't let Christine undermine you. And
financially undermine us. We already lost our streams.
She's going to say things. Yeah, she's going to say things to try to provoke you. Don't let that happen. So he's like, all those are going through his mind. She probably got the lawyer involved saying, yep, do not say this. Do not go down that road. Don't. And so you can just feel him holding that. I could say so much stuff, but I'm not going to. Nope.
Yep. So
it's done. It's over with.
Following Robin's orders.
She's turned over to God now.
Yep.
No longer my responsibility.
Yep.
So
she's
a good friend.
How did that say? Via con Dios?
She's a good friend that's falling in love, and I'm just so happy about it.
Right. But, so good on Cody Brown. He'll never watch this, but good on you for following Robin's orders and doing what you were told to do. And so, that's our recap of this episode. Again, it was a lot of pausing and venting and pausing and laughing and pausing, and it was funny.
Well, at the end of it, they asked her, but this is for, I guess, next week, so we can see what it is.
Oh, the previews for next week.
Previews for next week was, do they think that they'll be polygamous again? Robin's like, I don't know. What'd she say? I need guarantees, and if Cody's up for it. And I'm like, ooh, I hope she puts down what those guarantees are. My guesses are, she probably wants a prenup. But she's already legal wife, so she wants these guys to sign stuff over if they're going to come in. We need a prenup. You're not getting any of the stuff that we've already earned. You will donate some in there.
Donate to our investments that we do.
We only want obedient wives. These last three were rebellious. We want obedient wives to Cody, who's obedient to me, and no childbearing aged wives.
That's why he'll never get married again. Yeah. Is because how will they blend that family? Really, that's how the families blend, is through the children typically.
We'd like some older wives that are financially stable within themselves that can add into our united order. What kind of guarantees did she give the original wives when she was coming in? She gave them none. So why you get guarantees when you get to bring in it? Yeah,
the invisible lines that she was supposed to follow.
Yeah, so
the barriers or the perimeters. I hadn't put those perimeters up yet. She didn't even follow any of those. So,
and the fine print says you'll rock on the front porch with me as grandchild. So
yes, we will rock.
We will rock together
on the front porch together. Yes,
these are the guarantees I'm looking for.
Yep.
No, hopefully nobody falls for it. And
can you imagine being the woman who fell for that? Oh my gosh.
Yep. So, and nobody like Robin. She will not accept any applications of duplicates herself. Yeah. She knows what she's doing. But that's all I got. So
all right. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, subscribe to our channel. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Our channel has grown so much just in the last couple of weeks. We really, really appreciate that. We're going to start getting more on a regular schedule of posting. Life has been lifing for us. It's been a little crazy lately, but let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you have any questions for us, we'll probably do another Q&A here pretty soon, because we're getting a lot of questions that we will do just a whole episode on just the questions that you guys are answering. So shoot us an email if you have any questions like that, or leave it in the comments if you do. And we're going to start trying to go live a little bit more throughout the month of June.
Yep.
And so, let us know what you guys think.
And I did want to add one public apology. I was being snarky and rude, and I've been watching the last couple episodes, and Robin's been putting stuff in there, so I know they're watching. And I was snarky and rude and said that Cody was King Curls, and she has added in some of her episodes the full name of Cody, and so I've got it Cody. And a couple episodes back, he's second of his name because there was the Wild Bill Cody. So Cody, second of his name, King of the Curls, but also the keeper and priesthood holder of the divine marriage and the locket, or the holder of the locket of purity. I had to get that whole name out there for him. So she's been giving me inspiration through her things of how I needed to correct that. So it's a whole name that I've got to honor, not just King Curls. So there you go. There's my public apology. Sorry, buddy. I'll refer to you as the priesthood holder, King Curls, all that stuff. Second of his name from here on out. I'm a nerd.
Making this kind of stuff up because it's fun for him.
Yeah. Game of Thrones. I'm a nerd. So I was like, this will be excellent. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Talk to you later.
In the next episode.